Hello, hello, all those beautiful faces. Welcome to Teaching Liberty. I'm Stephanie Edmonds, and tonight I am here with the Mammals, Mike and Ruthie. And I met you guys when I went to the Hoot, and I fell in love. And we went 2 years strong. My son, as soon as we get done with the concert, he's like, "We're coming back next year, right?" And yeah, so the Mammals, welcome. You have a new song out, Unpopular Ideas. And I guess that's what we're here to talk about tonight. I like to think they're a little bit more popular than people let them on to be, but welcome. Thank you guys for coming.
Good to be here.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, for sure. And I thought that we'd start off by plugging the Hoot, the winter edition, which I haven't been to, and I was hoping to make it to at least 1 or 2 days this year. So why don't we just start off talking a little bit, I guess introduce you guys, the Mammals, this Hoot thing that we're referring to. And I also know you have a podcast, so just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you guys got going on these days.
Cool.
Other shirt.
And we have a band called the Mammals. Sometimes we play as Mike and Ruthie, sometimes as the Mammals. We have a festival called the Hoot. We have a summer Hoot in the summertime, and in the winter, you guessed it, the winter version is called the Winter Hoot, and it's an intergenerational good time with live roots music. The Mammals always play Saturday night slot, and there's fun stuff for kids to do, fun stuff for grown-ups to do, local food, beer, wine, cider. It's at a place called the Ashokan Center, which is also where I work when we're not on tour. It's a beautiful nature spot, and I could talk more about that too at some point, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful place with great people. So the whole festival raises money for outdoor education and cultural preservation stuff that happens at Ashokan, and it's a good time.
It's 2 hours north of New York City in the Hudson Valley.
Exactly.
For those who are intrigued by whatever this event is. And we started it in 2013. We've been going basically nonstop twice a year with the festival. As the Mammals, we've toured most of the continents that we know about and played all their festivals. And we just fell in love with the festival scene so much that we decided we needed to start our own.
Yeah, Stephanie, if you click on the schedule, you can see who's playing this year. That's my dad and stepmom, Jay Unger and Molly Mason. They're kicking off Friday night. And then, yeah, there's a hike, there's music for kids, there's a family square dance type thing. Jeremy Schoenfeld, the Evening Bells, Michaela Davis, Lau Noah, the Mammals.
Yeah, and that's what I love about your events is it really is fun for the whole family. It's not one of those like family fun things where it's really just for the kids.
Right.
It's for everyone, the parents, the kids, everybody's having fun the whole time. And I was thinking about I was like, oh, it seems a little cold to do in the winter, but I see it's all indoors. It looks nice and cozy. In the summertime we camp out, and it's like a long weekend of roughing it. I guess you can stay in a hotel nearby, but we do the camping scene, and the kids run around and they do their own little thing. So it's definitely a lot of fun. I actually have the links down below, or it's easy at hoot.love. And, I hope I'll see you guys there, and I hope to see everybody else who's out there.
Stephanie, did you first come to the Hoot with Elizabeth Vernon or Danny Perrott, one of those cats?
Yes, with Elizabeth and Danny. Those are my people. Let's plug Elizabeth real quick, Queen Bee's Pharmacy. I also have her link down below. You can use my code TeachingLiberty to get 15% off there. But yeah, Elizabeth is good people's, and she was like, "You got to come to this concert. It's amazing, and I'm vending and this and that," and the rest is history.
Nice. Yeah, I was super fortunate when I was a kid to grow up hanging out at the Ashokan Center. My dad used to rent the place and do music and dance events. And so I grew up getting to see grown-ups being silly and having fun. Like a lot of my life was spent seeing, irreverent, wacky grown-up antics that had something to do with like tradition and music and nature and whatnot, but it was just kind of self-made fun. I like to think, there's so many horrible things that human beings do, but this is one of the good things that people do, or several of the good things that people do, all consolidated into,
Yes.
getting just to do something. So I wanted to keep an event going there that was really accessible. We turned no one away for lack of funds. So we just wanted to be really accessible to anyone, to get to have a taste of that, where kids see grown-ups having fun. Grown-ups get to see kids like, just making new friends or just in a relaxed atmosphere. Um, and it's been awesome to
Yeah,
to
I volunteered last year actually. So like they have like a program where you can volunteer and that's how you sort of like earn your ticket. So I did a shift in the kids tent.
Oh,
I
nice.
did
Thank
and I
you.
did a kitchen shift, right? You had to do 2 shifts. I think that's what
Yeah,
Amazing.
that's what I did. So
fun.
it definitely helps out when you got the family and trying to figure things out and do vacations and lots of
Yeah.
things. So I
You know,
appreciate.
I gotta say, Stephanie, your presence at the Hoot, I guess it was 2022. Was that the first time you came?
Yeah.
And you were
2
here
years.
23 as well. But you know, I, in our journey, we've been playing music for 25 years, but the new chapter is sort of this health freedom awareness. And I've been trying to figure out ways to marry those two worlds between the music and sort of this new community of folks like yourself that I've been meeting. And I've been following you on Insta and whatnot. And for you to show up at the Hoot was sort of like the first time I saw those two worlds start to braid together. It was really meaningful to me that you were
Awesome.
there. Yeah, it was sort
Yeah,
of the
and it's like, I feel likewise, like I showed up and I was like, this is the music of the movement, right? Like,
yeah,
this is everybody hanging out on the porch, jamming, singing what comes from their heart, bringing everybody together. I always felt like there's this very interesting, like, hippies, they are associated with the left, like, being far left sort of. But at the same time, the left of today is very like heavy on government and hippies are like, no, like, get off my lawn. One of my favorite songs that you guys have is oh my God, why is the
Is it
name
the
escaping
Bad Shoes Blues?
me? Yes, the Bad Shoes Blues.
You
Exactly. Yes.
texted about that.
Yes, I said in the DM, yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, "That's just, like, my jam," like, it captures that cross section so well of, like, the traditional left before it went, like, I don't know, full blown, we want the government to do everything.
My
Um
favorite
Oh,
song is You Can See Me Now.
You Can See Me
Aw.
Now. Yes, that's a
Aw.
good song. That's
Thank
I'm s
you.
he really does. He loves The Who, and I know he had said something like, "Oh, those mammals," like, saying that he didn't like them, but he totally does. I don't know what that was about.
that was funny. Yeah,
Aw, that's
I
awesome.
forget the details of that story to tell it correctly, but he was. What's your son's name again?
Caleb.
Caleb, right? He's hanging out backstage with our kids, and they were just talking about whatever they were talking about, and somehow the mammals came up, and he's like, "I don't like the mammals." And I think I was standing there, and I was like, "I love this kid. This kid's he tells it as it is. He's not holding
So
back."
funny, so funny.
Well, I'm
But
glad
yeah.
you like that song, man.
Yeah, we won him over.
Yes, yes, for sure.
That was the
And
song we almost didn't record and then became our favorite song. It was the
It's
last minute, like, maybe we'll try another song before we leave the studio.
that was one where what we've found over the years that some of our most successful collaborations are things that I write and she sings. And we didn't have anything in that category for the most recent record, Nonette. And this was a song that I was previously singing. And when I do it, it's a little too long and a little too sad and a little too something. But as soon as Ruthie took it on, it just sort of it sprouted wings and started to fly. And now it's probably our most popular, one of the most requested songs.
it is so good. Yeah, I wanted to actually ask you more about your process.
Mm.
You guys have been playing for, I guess, over 2 decades, right? When I was reading your bio, and you said you've been all over the world, so and you play all sorts of different instruments too. So tell me a little bit about, I guess, like, each individually, how you came into music and how you came together and what that's looking like now. I guess the short version, 'cause,
Right.
I know we could talk.
That's a lot of
for hours.
ground to cover.
I'll maybe hop in first. My mom's a folk singer. My dad's a fiddle player. So I grew up with a lot of real rootsy music. I'm an only child, very small family, but large kind of non-geographic like folk community that I was raised in, if you will. And so my mom writes really literal, kind of funny songs like the Bad Shoes Blues is definitely more in that vein. My dad writes melodies, and a lot of them are like really hauntingly beautiful and kind of make people tear up. So I think I'm kind of the marriage of those two, like the kind of quirky humor stuff, but also like the really heartfelt stuff. And
Ruthie says making people cry is the family business.
it is. And I went to school for theater, which of course it's like the comedy and tragedy faces are kind of, that idea. And I loved, I didn't really want to be a folk musician or a musician at all because I saw that lifestyle as I was growing up, probably like our kids wouldn't want to now. It's like, oh, it's a lot of work. It's annoying. You're driving all over the place. You're sleeping on random couches or whatever. Like, I don't know. There's more to it than that. But as a kid, I just thought like, I don't know, I'm going to do something else completely. Ended up being an actor and realizing it was the one shittier job that you can go after. You're actually like paying people to let you be on stage. It's like you're making negative dollars usually in the early stages of that. So I ended up taking like what I learned at theater school and applying it to delivering songs, I think, and just being, as my old acting teacher put it, private in public. So that's what I do. And I like it. I like being able to do that. It's something that's always come naturally a little bit. And process wise, each song is its own. But I really love arranging. I love supporting. Like nothing I like more than like just singing a harmony on one of Mike's songs or putting a fiddle part under something or just like experimenting and finding new kind of textures or whatever. Yeah, I like fitting into an ensemble or sometimes duet.
All right, so
And
if I was to play a song that you think kind of like really shows who you are, what song should we show the people? And then
oh, wow,
we'll let Mike say his spiel.
that's
I saw when she pulled up our page, families was right there on top. Would that be a fun one? to
okay.
play?
Yeah, so yeah, it's quirky and sometimes makes me cry.
All right, so here we go. We got the Mammals YouTube channel, which you should go over to and subscribe. And we're gonna play a little snippet of Family.
We're deeply wound and wounded from the twists and turns. Fire warms us, then it scares us when it burns. Only you alone can say what's welcome in your heart. You're king and queen of your own realm, and that's a place to start. When families get scrambly and families get weird, sharing last names, sharing fears, under one roof or across state lines. Think your family's strange, take a look at mine.
Awesome. I love it. And it does go back to sort of what you were saying about how you got into music and what the Hoot is sort of all about too, is like, everybody being around each other, being a little weird, being a little silly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as a kid you can really worry a lot about what's weird about yourself or your family or anything. And as I'm sure know, once you grow up a little bit, you realize there isn't any normal
Everybody's
family.
a weirdo.
Yeah, there's no normal people at all.
And the people who claim to be normal are usually the weirdest of them all.
It's all relative,
Exactly.
so to speak. Anyway, Mike.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I don't know. It's, in some ways, I grew up in an opposite type of family regarding music because I did not have musical parents. I had a couple uncles and aunts who played guitar. My uncle Ed gave me my first guitar. They just banged around the house for a while. I had no one to show me what to do with it, right? But I was always intrigued by that machine in the corner. And then I think around age 12 or 13, a new kid moved to town, a brilliant musician who's still at it, named Chris Wiseman. And he showed me C, F, and G. And
There you go.
that's all it took for me to start writing songs that very night. It's like,
Oh,
'cause I
nice.
was always fascinated by music and songs, and I just loved a good hooky, catchy song, radio stuff. And all of a sudden with those 3 chords, I could create my own. And whatever switch got flipped that night it has stayed on for, the last 30 years, 35 years. I have no greater love in life than writing songs. Somewhere in high school, I was starting bands. I also learned drums. And when you're a drummer, you end up being in a lot of bands because everyone needs a drummer, or at least they need a drum set. And I had a drum set. So I was in a lot of bands, totally self-taught, just making up stuff with my friends, basement bashers. And I didn't really put my songwriting to the forefront during those years. I was more supporting as a drummer. But in high school, I was writing my little songs in my bedroom by myself, and a couple of friends passed away that really shook up our community. And it became really clear to me at that sort of tender age of, I guess I was like 15 or 16, that life is very precious and can be sort of swept out from under you without any notice, And I realized that cliche of do what you love, follow your bliss. It was a real thing, especially if life can be cut so short. So I just decided, which of the things that I love can I do the longest? At the time, I loved playing sports. I played baseball, soccer, hockey. I loved music. I loved playing drums. I loved playing guitar. I hadn't quite figured out how to sing yet. That came later. I loved the theater. I was in plays. I had a really supportive middle school music teacher named David Irvin, who just recently retired, who was really, he was a formative presence in my young life for encouraging me to take an interest in the arts and got me opportunities. My first paid gig was as a drummer in a barn theater in Maine called the Hackmatack Playhouse. So that was an incredible experience. It was just summer theater, but it was a professional outfit. And I think I was 13 at the time, just hanging out with theater people, right? So my world really started to sort of expand in my little New Hampshire upbringing through the arts. And it turned out the thing I was able to parlay the longest has been music. Theater sort of fell by the wayside. I did that through college. That's how I met Ruthie, actually, doing theater in the city. Sports went away for a while, although I have started playing in a men's league ice hockey team again.
Oh, nice.
I played when our son Will was born. So that was like 15 years ago. Then I had some like concussion issues that really slowed me down and freaked me out. And I thought I better pick my battles, but I missed it so much. And I've done so much work to get my health in check, especially these last few years, that I'm back on the ice and I'm having a blast. So.
Nice. I was an ice hockey player growing up. So
no way.
I was a big, I went to like boarding school to go play ice hockey, and like I was supposed to go to college. I had some issues.
You get it.
Staying in that school.
It's funny. I got into college to play hockey too, and ended up just sort of at that age, I was more interested in music and smoking weed and chasing girls. And
Yeah.
weight room anymore. You know what I mean? So it sort of fell by the wayside. But that's where. So did you grow up in Connecticut? Is that where you played hockey?
Yeah, I grew up in Connecticut. Right here where I am, Stamford, Connecticut, and started playing ice hockey around my son's age. There was like a girls' league that came to town, and my mom had us do ice skating lessons because that was one of the things that she knew how to do from when she was a kid, and I was like a really good skater, and so it just translated over to ice hockey.
Yeah, I hope we can play together sometime.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm getting my son into it now. I have him taking hockey lessons, and he's gonna do like a learn to skate program.
If the pond freezes up at the Hoot, you bring your skates.
Yeah,
all right. Sounds good.
On the text thread with one of my hockey teams, they were talking about, it's getting cold out there. Who's got the best pond? And I said, Sunday at the Winter Hoot. If we've got ice.
All right, we got to pray for some ice. I was just out in Colorado doing some snowboarding, and it did not stop snowing the whole time we were there. 3 feet of snow, fresh powder. It was so sweet.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So my body is, recovering now from
Yeah.
5 days of intense snowboarding. But, yeah, no, it's awesome just, like, having those experiences and having them come together. I'm definitely, like, jealous that you guys get to go around, you get to play your music and travel a lot. I mean, I think now when I transitioned out of being a teacher, I have, like, more of this, like, flexible on the road lifestyle that you get to like make it yourself. And again, I gotta play, or I guess we'll let you play a song, Mike. What's your song that you think represents sort of who you are and what you bring to the Mammals?
Well, I guess we could just play the most recent one. Yeah, Unpopular Ideas. You want to hit it now?
Yeah, let's do that one. This
Sure.
is definitely, I think I heard the like world premiere of this song at the Hoot
I
this
think you're right.
summer.
Yeah.
It's a good one. So we'll play snippet of this. So we gotta listen to a commercial real quick. I don't know if you guys are getting ad rev.
I'm afraid I have some unpopular ideas. Our health is derived by letting go of fear and eating clean food and breathing clean air. I'm afraid I have some unpopular ideas to share.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I have some unpopular thoughts. Your government officials are mostly just bought by all the kick money bags, grinning ear to ear. I'm afraid I have some unpopular ideas right here.
Yes. Going hard on that.
And so on.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So
You're
it gives me like Bob Dylan vibes, right?
totally. Bob
Yeah.
is one of my top faves for sure. For sure.
Yeah, it's a good one. That one goes hard for sure.
Yeah,
And that's what I'm saying. Like, you guys are like, I don't want to say you're like political, because it's not, but it's just speaking about things that I guess are like real that everybody can relate to, whether it's family or whether it's what's going on in the world or your kid growing up, right? You have the song about your child. And then also just like some classics, like another one I love jamming to is the John Henry song. You guys have that,
Oh yeah.
That's an
just like a
oldie.
good, yeah, a good
I mean,
classic.
that's the original Man versus Machine. That's like the fuck the technocracy song. OG.
Exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
And
Like,
there's just also something about again, it just feels like everybody's just hanging out on the porch. It's like it doesn't feel intimidating kind of music. And I came up as like a hip hop head, like I came up listening to like rap,
Yeah.
hip hop, like, popular radio music. So this type of music is like a departure from what I guess like I grew up listening to.
yeah.
But I don't know, there's just something about it that's got me hooked right now.
Thanks.
Yeah.
We've been playing together for so long, and it's funny, like, what you're saying about it being political or not. Like, we originated this band with Tao Rodriguez Seeger as a trio, and then it grew, and then without Tao, we became Mike and Ruthie, and then we got our name back, became the Mammals again. His grandfather's Pete Seeger, who is famous for, being an outspoken activist and folk singer, born in 1919 and came through many decades, as tumultuous as any. And I guess where I'm going with that is like we did a lot of touring where we were associated with that vibe. And we were really in our 20s, really singing about what we were against, like we
Mhm.
had our like anti George W. song, and we had our different songs, that we were singing in those days. Um, and the Bad Shoes Blues is on that same record. So, some of it was just like anti-establishment, general, whatever, frustration, youthful, angsty kind of vibes. But then we toured with Arlo Guthrie as his band and opening for him, and had some eye-opening experiences. Also not on tour with Arlo. There was an experience down in Louisiana too, where we were out of our liberal East Coast bubble, right? And suddenly we're singing these songs that we didn't realize we were preaching to the choir up here. You know, like you talk about your district where you live, where like the Republicans are just there, like they're like pointless because they're not going to win or whatever. Like I
Right.
feel
It's just a super Democratic stronghold. And
Yeah.
so it's like
Yeah.
basically it doesn't matter. You could be a great Republican, have great ideas. People could like Bobby Valentine, the baseball all-star. I think he actually ran as an independent. He didn't run as a Republican. This national hero that every single person in our town knows because he wasn't on the Democratic line lost to some whatever, you know, just somebody from the town next door who has a rich family.
And yeah. And when we were like, you know, when I came up at folk festivals in the Northeast and around, it's just like you just sing lefty songs and everyone goes woo, and they sing along and it's a good time. And like we hadn't been, you know, exposed to like the rest of the country. So I can remember a time in New Orleans or in Lafayette, Louisiana, where the Mammals, you know, a tearful guy. We played our most rebellious song, as it were, as a encore. And this guy in tears, old man, was like, "You were my favorite band until you should not have played that last song," you know, and he just was so upset. And we had this talk about like religion and politics, and it was awesome. But I was just like, really, you know, we were starting to get like, oh, you know, there's an art to how you put this stuff out there. There was people who would see us open for Arlo and we'd play that same song and they come down the front row and give us the finger. Most of the crowd cheering still, but like somebody angry enough that they had to come down and be like, not everyone here likes your song. You know, I feel insulted by your song or whatever. So I think, you know, having that experience taught us how to write songs in our next phase that weren't what we're against and what we're mad at, but what we're for, what might be cool, you know, and that's what you're talking about. It's like those are the songs that I think we sing now that are a little more comfortable, even if you can tell the singer maybe isn't quite voting the same way you do. You're still like, hey, that's a cool idea or a cool question to ask. And
Right.
nobody's telling me I'm crappy.
Right, it's one of those spaces for sure that you feel like you can go and express your views. Like, I don't feel like anybody's gonna go up to the stage and give you a finger or, you know, you can have conversations that you might not be able to have somewhere else.
Yeah, and when we're
And
on tour, it's like we don't anymore assume. I mean, I used to have a lot of assumptions growing up, very, you know, Democrat family, whatever. Like I used to have assumptions about a lot of things, you know, that I don't
Right.
anymore. As of the past few years, it's like, I don't even know what to call myself. When everyone was jumping ship off of Twitter, I decided to get on Twitter. Like, I don't know. It's like the stock market. When everyone's selling, you should buy. It didn't
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
Nobody
It's
knows
working.
I'm there. I just like I thought it was a cool idea to be different and join. And I took the handle Lefty for Freedom. So I
Okay.
thought that would be cool. And I started putting lyrics to my new song Lefty for Freedom as my posts. You can find them there and tell me what you think.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
I was like, and
there's
then
an
Mike
art
was
to
like,
Twitter,
"Why
too.
be a lefty even?" And I was like, "I don't know." It's like I feel like it's like a brunette. Like, can I really change that? I don't know. But I am for freedom. Like, I don't know. I like the idea that I'm an atypical Democrat, if I am a Democrat still, and like that most of the Republicans that I'm friends with are atypical Republicans. Like the typical cliche A and B, I don't really hang with too much anymore.
Right. Well, I think that it's like one of those places that when you actually zoom in and see what people are talking about, and I notice this all the time with my local politics as well. I went to go, and this was back in the fall when they were running for the 2023 elections. And I'm supporting Democrats, a slate of Democrats. And I walk into the house and they have one of those signs that it's like, in this house, we
Mm.
believe in science and and I'm like, oh, okay, this is gonna be interesting. And I walk in and they're bragging about having the local police endorsement because the former head of the police union is on the city council and one of the members of the DCC, right? And so he has the connect to get the local police union endorsement, which is important because, you know, you like your local police, even though the national narrative is that police are bad. So it's just so interesting, the juxtaposition of this sort of national narrative that's going on, and then like, oh, actually, when I talk to my neighbor, they actually have a lot of the same concerns that I have. They want to have a safe town. The taxes are too high. You know, the sidewalks are not being kept up properly, or they haven't put one in yet on that street where everybody drives really fast. You know, so
Yeah.
and yeah, I just feel like that's sort of the vibe that I definitely get when I get your music. It makes me want to just sit down and talk to my neighbors and really connect and see what's going on.
That's
Um,
great to hear.
Yeah.
I think what we figured out is that the whole like scam that's being run on us like normal folk is the division card, right? It comes down from on high, and we didn't want to contribute to that anymore. And not that we consciously like said that out loud, but that's sort of how it manifested. So as Ruthie said, we're trying to sing about what we're for over what we're against, and that seems to be a more successful strategy in general. Just
Well, yeah. If you read that book, The Secret, I know it's corny, but whatever words you say is what you're putting out there. So if you're like, I hate blue elephants, you're singing about blue elephants or whatever, you know?
right. You're
Yeah.
putting energy into something you don't like. And I think too, like creating your own space, like with the Who, is also again about creating something that's positive, right? Not just going out and singing what you're against always on the road.
And the Ashokan Center where the Who occurs, it's not like a political entity. I mean, what the main purpose of that place has been for years was like outdoor education for kids. So kids from kind of down where you live, like kids from the city, from Long Island, from all around, like come up on a bus, get out of the city, see the stars, see where their water comes from, see lizards and newts and like critters, and like learn to really care about earth and air and water and all that good stuff. And that is not political.
Yeah,
That
no,
is,
it's not at all.
it better not be.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like it's really harmful to alienate anybody from that message. And you know, I think.
Yeah, no, I remember when I was in 5th grade, we did this thing called Nature's Classroom, and it was like a week, and you go up with your class
Mhm.
and you do all sorts of different activities, and it was one of my favorite parts of my whole elementary school experience. I just remember it so distinctly. It
Yeah,
felt like a lot of the social dynamics that happen in normal school sort of like fell away when you
exactly.
were up there. And
Exactly.
people who
Yeah.
you wouldn't normally hang out with, you were hanging out with, and nobody was, like, picking
And the
on you.
kid who seems dumb in school seems smart suddenly when you're in the woods.
Right, or
Or,
the kid who's, like, out of control and, like, doesn't know how to control their behavior is suddenly, like, engaged and, like, you
yeah.
don't have any issues with them. Yeah, it's definitely something else.
Yeah, it really changes things up, and kids get to relate to each other and themselves, and in a big way. And I think, you know, that's really healing. And music is healing, nature is healing, and yeah.
yeah, and the girl who only listened to hip hops all of a sudden listening to fiddle tunes, and yeah.
My son has a ukulele, so well, I think it was partially inspired by that, but then he also likes this guy, Boy with Uke. I don't know if you ever heard this guy, Boy with Uke. He's like a popular artist. He has, like, some hit songs or whatever, but
Nice.
so maybe he'll be out there with his ukulele soon playing with you guys.
We'll keep an eye out.
Bring
He's
it
got
on.
he's got a good handle. Yeah.
Yeah. But you had also mentioned that you have a podcast going on. I know you have your kids. So, yeah, what else? Let me know about this podcast and what else
Yeah,
you guys
yeah.
have going
I'd
on.
love to talk about that. So, like I said, I don't know if I said, but I think myself and Ruthie were sort of late to the health freedom awareness movement. Really, 2020 was a crash course, right? And one of my best friends from New Hampshire growing up, Ben Hardy, we were really in touch, especially there early 2020. Actually, the first thing we did, I don't know if you know the book Ishmael by Daniel Quinn, but it was this book that I love, and I would buy like 40 copies at a time from thriftbooks.com. I started sending it to everybody. The most recent album's really informed by it, blah, blah, blah. And so Ben and I decided to read Ishmael on Instagram. We did a chapter a night.
Yeah, 3 right there. Okay.
If you need one, hit me up. Listen.
Yeah. Maybe I'll have to grab one of those at the Hoot.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was sort of our like foray into doing something in the media space together. We read a chapter a night of this book we both loved. This was like April 2020, right? Everyone's like, what the F is going on? And I guess we'll do this thing now. And so we did that. And then Ben and I think that solidified our, like the reemergence of our friendship because we were in bands together back in the day. And we really wanted to figure out what was going on in the world, especially with regards to health. And that sent us into the terrain theory rabbit hole. And, you know, I don't know if your listeners or you know about terrain theory, but if you would Google terrain theory, this is, of course, stands opposite germ theory. You know, you'd get the first 3 pages of Google would just be like debunked pseudoscience, blah, 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 like a lot of
Right.
things.
Misinformation.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
so, but a lot of the people we were listening to, like Dr. Zach Bush, Dr. Tom Cowan, Dr. Andy Kaufman, Sam and Mark Bailey, like they're all really articulating some really profound ideas about how our bodies actually work. And these aren't new ideas. These go back to Pasteur versus Beauchamp. And like, so this has been sort of a contentious issue for a very long time. And so Ben realized like a Google search isn't going to do it. Someone needs to take the bull by the horns and put all these resources under one roof. And why shouldn't it be us? But it was really Ben. He bought terraintheory.net, and that's sort of our home base. And we do a weekly podcast. We just hit 100 episodes recently. And it's been this health odyssey journey for the two of us to talk to brilliant people every week. And as Tom Cowan said, you know, virology is a gateway drug. Once you start to like sort of untangle, like, well,
Is this it?
Yeah, that's it. That's our website. Yep.
Nice.
That's it. Yeah.
It looks good. It's like super official. I was like, what is this it? Wow.
Yeah, could this possibly well, Ben's his real life job is that he is the digital marketer. So he has all the skill sets for helping people launch podcasts and build slick websites. So yeah, it's really pretty sexy looking, isn't it?
It really is. It is. Awesome. Nice.
If you click about us, is there a picture of you guys?
I don't know. Maybe so. I know if you click, I always just go to the podcast page because that's where I listen from. But
Yeah.
it's been the ride of a lifetime. And honestly, Stephanie, Ruthie and I have been playing music for 25 years, and we have, somewhat of a following and an awareness. But like the podcast might be the biggest thing I've ever done. We get 3,000 or 4,000 listeners a month, and the most incredible emails from our listeners. So it's been very gratifying and validating to know that we're resonating with people out there. And I guess the irony is, I remember a publicist of ours, Allison Ravenscroft, said like 20 years ago, like, you guys should really start a podcast. It's a great way to build your audience. And it's funny that I never did, and I always knew I should. But when I finally did, it had nothing to do with music, and it's in this newfound
Except
sort of
your brother's song is the theme.
Yeah, well, of course, we're pulling music in all the time, and we put together a panel at the Hoot, Healers and Growers.
I was gonna say, yeah. I remember
moderated.
Danny.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like I said, I'm always trying to bridge these two worlds these days, the health freedom, health awareness, terrain theory, and music worlds. And the Hoot is sort of the perfect little melting pot where it seems to happen relatively organically.
Yeah, the podcast is great. They've got, different people who are really expert in different areas, or kind of just regular people who have a healing journey, their own story.
Right.
So those are kind of the two different styles of episodes, and each one is totally interesting, different deep dive into somebody's life or somebody's area of
people who heal
health.
themselves via holistic means, right?
Nice. Yeah. I've heard of
yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, like I'm aware of the terrain theory versus germ theory. I understand like the germ theory is the prevailing consensus in this time period, but like you said, that it seems manufactured to an extent, right? The way that they block out you talking at all about the terrain theory stuff. But yeah, I'd certainly be interested in learning more about it. I was actually gonna do for like 30 or 60 days, try doing like a carnivore
Mhm.
diet detox. I've
Mhm.
done the whole 30 thing, and that's where I found out I had issues with gluten.
Mhm.
Because like I was just like having so many allergy attacks. I was like getting like
Yeah.
weird
Same.
rashes and
Same,
stuff.
same, same. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I found out gluten is like a big trigger for me. But I still just feel like my allergies are just like pretty, like I have bad allergies every day. I have to take like a Zyrtec or, just like to dust and different things. And even when I feel like I'm like I haven't eaten anything gluten and my skin is still whatever. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna try
I used to take that
this.
Zyrtec
I know.
back in the
And
day.
it's funny reflecting on our old
Remember that.
lives as like sort of carefree on the road, young hippie musicians, where you just eat whatever at any time and you drink the beers because you have the drink tickets, and it's and you're spending basically 8 hours a day in a van or in a venue, and your feet never touch the grass. And it's like it's not a healthy lifestyle at all, especially through this new terrain lens that I have. But I had all those allergies, and gluten was the first sort of elimination that I went for. This was like 15 years ago, and my allergies cleared up and all sorts of stuff cleared up. I was more robust, and I didn't get sick as often, and all that stuff. But I just had lunch with a buddy a couple days ago who started the year off keto carnivore. So I had an omelet for lunch that day, and he had 2 sides of bacon, a chicken breast, and 2 avocados. And he said he's never felt better in his life. He's tried everything. So it is
Okay.
interesting having these conversations every week.
I like that avocado is carnivore.
It still makes the
item
it still
now.
makes
Yeah.
the
I think 'cause it's just super high in fat,
fat
right?
and
Like,
oils.
I think
Exactly. That's right.
yeah.
Healthy
And I
oils.
think it's easy to digest. It's kind of good.
Yeah.
So, but the carnivore versus vegan thing, it comes up a lot, and I think it's really just different strokes for different folks. Everybody's different, and you're
Yeah.
going to find what works for you. I'm not going to weigh in on one being better than the other, but
I
I would
see,
wholeheartedly support a
Trial and
carnivore.
error, man.
Try some
Yeah.
carnivore because I think there is something to it.
Yeah.
But a big
Yeah.
part of what is to it is just the fact that you are eliminating so much. You're
So
eliminating
much for sure.
right. You're just streamlining your diet to such a degree that things are going to clear up. I think that's a big,
Right. And
but of
and
course,
I
meat
just
is
figured
super
that
important.
the thing that is attracting me to this diet is that people who've done it have said like they actually have trouble having enough calories because it's so filling and it's so savory, right? Whereas like I did the whole 30 diet and I just felt like I was like always looking for food. Like I would get into periods like where I felt like I would hit ketosis or whatever, you'd be fine. But then I don't know, it just
Yeah.
and I'm going to go see this farmer out in Pennsylvania, Bucks County, Pennsylvania. He's like a veteran. I saw him. Elizabeth also brought him to my awareness. I guess he's like trying to build up his monthly boxes so that he can
Nice.
sustain his business.
Yep.
And so I was just gonna go out to the farm, check out his stuff, pick up a big box of meat. I was gonna film it too, so to show everybody and have that be like the beginning of my
Love it.
carnivore diet journey.
Yeah, we started doing that too. We buy half a cow and half a pig from a local farm, and they say you should know your farmer's name, right? And now we really do. And the other thing I've been realizing, um, again with our life on the road for so long, we would tour around the country and we'd talk a good game about localism and sustainability, but we weren't doing any of it. We weren't local. And now, one of the silver linings of being um, stuck at home was that we were able to actually be local and meet some farmers and grow our own food and learn about permaculture and start health podcasts. And
Nice,
so a lot of
nice.
beautiful stuff has sprung up, even though it's funny sitting up here in the bedroom doing an interview like this is like makes me flash back to 2020 when
For
we,
real.
we were doing so much of this. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't really done a lot of this in a couple years. Kind of weird.
It's checking yourself out in there. I for sure can feel the tension between the national, again, going back to like that national political scene versus my local politics and just like, okay, I'm trying to make a podcast, right? That appeals to a national audience. So then that draws you to more national headlines. But like at the same time, I'm like, hold on, a lot of this stuff is a distraction because what I really need to be doing is getting to know, my local reps, my state reps, what's going on here, and not being so drawn to yeah, just like whatever the headlines are. So it's such a struggle. Again, I guess a little bit of a blessing in disguise when I was commuting back and forth between Connecticut and New York City. And even though it's not that far, it's like, there's a lot of logistics that's involved. I have to drop my son off at school and get to work, and then I come back and I pick him up, and then it's like so much of your day is gone, and you have these people that are 45 minutes or an hour apart from each other, and how are you having a cohesive life? So,
Yeah.
definitely the pandemic made me make some of these choices
Hmm.
that forced me back into my local community. And in some ways, I'm not making as much money, and, things are a little bit harder. But what do they say? Freedom is just another word for you ain't got nothing to lose, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's right. And it's cool what you're saying too about like local versus, national, like headspace or whatever. And I've been thinking about that. I think your podcast is so universal because it's literally about like the human body that it's really like global. I think, there's like, there's definitely been response from
Yeah.
all over the place. As it's kind of like they say in songwriting, like the more personal and unique you write, the more universal it is.
There's
Like,
an inversion at
yeah,
some
it's
point, like
yeah, yeah. So it's almost like when you try to go super specific, local, and personal, it does become more universal anyway.
We have
right.
a lot of listeners from Australia where the lockdowns were so severe. And I think it forced people to really like look at what was going on and what tyranny really looks like, who they can trust, and what's real. Because at the bottom of the barrel of what's real is your health. Like, what does it really mean to be healthy? If the headlines for the last 3 years are going to be all about quote unquote health, no one's really talking about what it means to be healthy, though. And a lot of people started looking, trying to find out. Yeah.
And if you're talking about terrain theory and people are out there like Googling like what actually are we talking about? It's like for me, because I'm still someone who like believes that it might not be like terrain or germ, like maybe both have something going on, or like in some ways we're just like renaming and talking about toxins instead of germs, but in similar language. But the idea is that that when you're sick, people tell you to get rest. They tell you to like drink water, like all that good stuff. Like everybody knows that much. Everybody can agree on that part. That like if you take care of yourself and you have less stress, you drink more water and sleep more, you'll probably get better quicker and probably get less sick if you do that preventatively. So that's like the gateway version that everyone can accept. And then there's like a little bit like next level up would be, that there's more that you can do to control, your terrain. It's not just your genetics. It's not just like what you're dealt and then it hits you. It's a little more like you have powers. You have agency. You can, even just using your mind and your breath and all this stuff can actually like have much more profound effect than you think. And then you get to a point where you're like, oh, cool. So that it's like my genetics and my, part I can control, and it's and the germs, and they're all interplaying, and that's where I was for a long time. And then you get like the next level where some people might resist going, which is like maybe some of this stuff that we know about germs and viruses is like actually fully inaccurate, and that it's then you got to go a little further down.
For me, I like to go back to, I think what helps me make the leap or potentially like, I don't know enough about this specific part of it because I haven't gone down it. But what I like to do is go back to like the 1910s, 1920s when Rockefeller was trying to kind of like redo his image in the public eye, figure out what to do with all his damn money and figure out what to do with all his oil. And so he sort of came up with this philanthropy play where he was like, okay, I'm going to become a philanthropist and I'm going to have all these nonprofit organizations and they're going to create a brand that is going to basically turn everything that we use into oil-based products, from our pharmaceuticals to like Vaseline, right? Vaseline is petroleum oil. Like, yeah. So, that's that when I contextualize it with that, it helps me be able to make that leap from, well, maybe
Maybe
the
we
way
should
that
look
we
at this.
think about health is total nonsense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and when you think about, more and more and more pills and
Right.
medications and injections and procedures, and like it's what's available is more and more, and are people more and more healthy or
No, they're the
strokes?
opposite. They're more and more sick, it seems like. I was
Right.
just seeing the
So
statistics for people who are on Adderall or ADD or ADHD medicine, right? Which is basically some form of amphetamine.
yeah.
Um, I mean, I know that I remember like when I went to school, a lot of kids had Adderall, so I can imagine it's probably gotten even more now. And it's like really easy to get. They share it, they let you try it, this and that. And I remember I tried it, not cool. Like, did not like it at all. Did not want to make me like want to take that. Like, you can't feel anything. I guess like if you had to like really study or like get something done, like maybe, you know?
Yeah.
But I was just like, you take this every day?
Yeah.
Like,
And then you got people like Mike, quitting coffee.
I know that was the most recent thing to get
okay,
canceled.
okay.
That's crazy.
I've quit coffee before, and then I like got back onto it, and now it's like,
That's what I did.
yeah.
I quit a few times. I did it before he did it, and we've never done it at the same time, so it's kind of a drag.
I
But
like the mushroom coffee, right? Like it has a little bit of caffeine in it, but it's like
yeah,
the
yeah,
mushroom. Yeah.
My new thing, for a while since I've started this journey, I've sort of boiled it down to organic versus synthetic. That can be medicine, that can be clothing, that can be your bedspread, music, all of it. And I like to err on the organic side. And so my New Year's resolution is I'm trying to only wear real fiber clothing. Like no more
Oh,
no
you
more
know who does that?
tri-blends. Yeah.
Elizabeth.
Oh yeah. Right on.
Yeah, she's all cotton, like all real fibers.
Yeah. That's I
It's
just
hard to find warm socks.
Yeah, it is hard to
Mhm.
find warm socks, or you can find wool socks, but they do get holes quicker. It's true.
If there's nothing to hold it
You
together.
gotta mend more socks.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go. You gotta
Can't
mess with it.
find socks to
I
suit
feel
my
like
style.
I'm been going to the what's it? The thrift store or the like
Sure.
Goodwill,
Yeah.
get stuff, the secondhand stuff. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah,
And
I like
and you can
that.
find some good places where it's quite affordable.
hell
But
yeah.
I was also thinking of getting into the sewing 'cause my mom, like, all my aunts can sew. My mom can sew, my grandma used to always sew.
Yep.
So I was thinking like, "Alright, this summer when I go to my mom's house, I'm gonna do some sewing projects," and 'cause I know how to do it. Like, I know how to do it. I'm just not well practiced.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
gotta be
I
something.
fully support
It
that.
comes back, the more you do it.
Yeah,
Exactly, yeah, and I just think, like, that's what I'm betting long on. I know, like, there's all this, like, AI and the internet's great, like, having relationships, internationally or nationally or just across state lines, it's great, right? But what I'm really betting long on is personal relationships, like, really knowing people, having those in-person networks,
Yeah.
knowing your farmer, knowing,
Yeah.
the roads without having to get on Google Maps and your
Yeah,
water
we used
sources.
to be so cocky. I remember we would say, like, we have the best job security because come the apocalypse, the power goes out, we can still play for square dance. We don't need any electricity. We just need like a fiddle and a banjo and we can
Yep,
have a good time. And there'll be no Netflix and we'll be like still rocking. And then
yep.
we had no idea it would be like, no, 8 people can't be in a fucking room
Can't
together.
touch each other.
Actually, you're totally not cool and
Yeah.
not anyway. But yeah, we didn't see that coming at all. It was like a different apocalypse than we had predicted.
yeah.
But anyway,
Well, that'll never happen again.
well, yeah, I mean,
Let's do a different storyline. It's gonna definitely they're gonna try something
they'll
this
try
year.
something, but we're not going to take the bait.
but I
Hey,
guess
we're not
I'm just
falling for
saying,
it.
I'm just saying like that whole betting long on, like for us, it's still that. It's like,
I hear you, I hear
we
you,
can
I
get
hear
at
you.
least 8 people do a square dance that are like not afraid to breathe some air and
Exactly.
hang out. So it's gonna be good.
I'll be there. You can count
Yeah,
me in.
we know who to call now, or at least send a
Exactly.
carrier pigeon to.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And I like that. I like betting long on like knowing how to sew. Teach your kid to sew. My dad, my family, my grandmother was a seamstress her whole life, and she taught my dad to sew. He was really good at it from a young age. My dad grew up in the Bronx, but was like a kind of country boy at heart. Really liked like learning about how Native Americans did shit. He used to take his bow and arrow with his like quiver of arrows that he sewed. He had like a whole leather sewing thing going on. Yeah, I used to take that on the subway down to Coney Island, down to the beach, and shoot arrows in the sand. I don't think you could do that now.
I was going to say, can you imagine doing that today?
I'm
No.
pretty sure he even took it into Central Park and shot more than sand.
Really?
Yeah.
He went out there. Well, either way, that's the kind of shit that my dad did, growing up when he was, so he was born in the 40s. So that would have been like late 50s, probably he was doing that. And
Different
come from a long line of do-it-yourselfers, I guess. Yeah.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I grew up like sailing, so I feel like
Nice.
that's very much like outdoors. I always get so jealous. My girls, oh, we're going on a cruise, like the Disney cruise, the Carnival cruise, or I'll be like, oh, I'm going on a cruise around Long Island Sound on my parents' boat or whatever, But now looking back, it's like that's way cooler than going on one of those cruises. Like so much better, And so I'm just like, I'm very grateful for that, and grateful that there's people out there still doing these types of things and playing music and putting on concerts and just like creating this alternative kind of community that I think is just going to be so important. And it's one of those things, they say like the revolution won't be televised. And yeah, it's true. The revolution won't be televised because the establishment doesn't want it to be televised. But I also think it's because the nature of it is such that it can't be captured in that medium. And so it's not just that the culture lags, right? That it can't, it's hard to know what's going to be true, in a year or two based on what the culture is now. But it's also just that it's never going to be able to reflect that.
Yeah.
It'll never capture the true spirit. There's a great Tom Waits quote that I often cite. He said, the best music doesn't want to be recorded. And there's something to that. But, we have a friend for the last 5 or 6 years. He comes to all of our concerts and films us. And it's not that I hate it all, but none of it feels like it was to be there. None of it rises to that occasion. Some of it, I shouldn't say none of it, but it's just like I'm very discerning, and it's really hard they call it lightning in a bottle, right? So it does occasionally happen. And actually just this week, I stumbled upon our 2021 Hoot set, which really was impeccably captured, and it sounds phenomenal. And I'm just like sort of over the moon about it because I generally just don't expect anything good to translate in the medium from what we do.
No, it's definitely with all the instruments and all this and that. And as somebody who takes a lot of video, it's definitely something I struggle with in some moments where I'm like, oh, like I kind of want to be in this moment, but I'm like, also I want to capture this moment. It's so important for history and to show other people. And so, it goes back to that tension.
Everybody out there is making that choice every minute. Am I just here or am I documenting?
You do a good job. In fact, I've got some of your videos on the Mammals Instagram page because they're some of my favorites. Some of them captured.
Oh yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you guys for doing what you do and like coming on here, letting us all know about it and your podcast. I didn't know about the podcast. I'm sorry. Apparently it's your most popular thing.
Well, a lot of your friends that you have in common have been on the podcast.
Yeah, Danny, Elizabeth's been on.
Okay.
You're gonna love it, but no pressure. I know there's a lot of content out there to absorb.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I think that in this next phase I'm getting into with the detox thing, that you'll probably have some resources on there. I'll want to check out.
I'll pick a few for you to send you on that. There's some good information around water fasting, and then actually Dr. Grayson Dart, who works with Andy Kaufman, he did a 30-day water fast, or maybe it was like 22 in a week of refeeding, and then he went right back into his carnivore diet. So all these things
I
are
don't know,
good.
yeah, maybe like a 3-day water fast sounds
Yeah.
reasonable.
I've never done more than 2. It's
That's
hard.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's pretty intense stuff,
Yep.
but I'll definitely check it out. And people should go check you guys out at hoot.love for your concert and the mammals.love for your music specifically.
Yeah.
And anything else you wanna plug? I guess you're on Twitter, right, Ruthie?
I part of the song that I have never sung is on Twitter if you want to check it out.
All right, we'll go
There's
check that
there's
out.
other verses I didn't even post, but if enough people like the first couple of verses, I might post verse 3.
Yeah, and it's because it's been a dance, it's trying to be true to ourselves and be honest about who we are, who we've become, but also not like alienate our audience, especially in this crazy new redrawing of the political districts, as it were. So some of my more maybe on the nose stuff has been coming out on a Substack, which is ruthlessmike.substack.com. So some songs that speak more directly maybe to the lockdowns and my reaction to it, and some parodies. I have a parody of The Sound of Silence called The Sound of Psyops that I'm quite proud of. So you can find that at ruthlessmike.substack.com.
Awesome. So people should go check that out. Check them out. Follow me, and maybe we'll see you guys at the Hoot.
I feel crazy that we didn't mention our Patreon.
Oh, sure.
Oh yeah. Mention your Patreon.
Yeah. It's we are the Mammals on Patreon.
Yeah, patreon.com/themammals.
And we have an incredible, awesome, generous bunch of supporters out there who have been following us for decades. Some of them new, some of them for a long time, helping us keep making music and doing what we do and raise a couple of kids and travel around and keep the dream alive.
Yeah.
So we appreciate all of them.
Yeah, that's a great place to support us. So thank you.
I love that. Make sure you're supporting good music, people doing the real work locally, and come out to the Hoot.
Yeah, see you at the Hoot. Thanks for everything you do. We love how positive and open you always are with all your guests, and it's been fun to be one.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate everybody out there. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and share this out with all your friends so we can keep spreading the word, spreading the love. And remember, when you think free, you live free, and give all the glory to God.